Ooh.
Got his own space.
Because
Very
I've
own
got
space.
I've got the sound on, so they can hear you speaking.
Richard up there?
So you're not going to you charge your phone, which is still,
Yes, just for the charge.
but you're still not on the right channel. Ah, okay.
I hear the rain.
What?
I hear the rain.
No.
Remember Jane's come on. It's down here somewhere. Is it now? Down here.
I could do it on my phone.
Jeffrey Plasko's on.
Who?
Jeffrey Plasko's on.
Is he? Good, can you get him?
Turned his camera off.
Oh, no, my God.
What's he done?
Oh, it's a lot of people.
Yeah.
There you go, Jeff.
Is he?
Is that rain?
Can't hear him.
Jamie, have you spoken to him today?
Oh, Jonathan's here.
Yeah.
Jonathan's.
No, the Australian. Oh.
Unable to access microphone.
Yeah.
That's what it says, unable to access microphone.
I don't know.
I know you don't. Okay, bye.
Well, all right, bye.
You can't switch it off. We'll turn the sound down on that. No. So we can work on it. So the double echo now.
Estelle, can you hear me? Estelle?
Yeah,
All right, okay.
I don't know why I'm not coming in here.
We're not on camera. We're not on camera. No. We're not on camera for some reason or other.
Okay, hold on.
Esther, are you up?
Oh, I can see you now, Esther.
I can't see you.
Can't see us.
I
Okay.
can see Eve.
No. I'm nervous. Can't you just mute it? Just mute it.
Julia, my God, I haven't seen her for years.
Hi, Margaret.
Margaret, can you hear us? You can't see us.
You can't.
That's Susan.
Yeah.
Hi, darling.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you? Susan's brother.
Yeah.
Ralph and Julian, I haven't seen her for years.
Yeah, I tried, but I can't mute it. That's very weird.
If you come next to me.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm not Emma Jane Weider. I'm Elliot Weider, Judy's son. I know the competition for your attention on Sunday was somewhat limited due to current circumstances, but my brother Jamie and I, together with my dad, were touched and comforted that so many of you joined us in person and online to bid farewell to my mother, a lady who I know many of you had not met and didn't know, but looking at the screen in front of me, many of you who clearly did know, who I don't know. I'm in no doubt that having spent a few days upstairs, my mother will have shared her views with the powers that be about what's wrong with the state of the world right now and how things should be different in the future. Probably something many of us would like to do right now. Before I share a couple of thoughts about my mother, an update about my father, who I hope is somewhere amongst all these numerous screens that are in front of me. Thank God he's much less reliant on his oxygen now, and he's making slow progress in the right direction. But he's weak, he's bereft, and he's confused. I hope he can hear me, or at least see me, or at least knows what's going on. And I think for all of those who haven't got their cameras on, if you just turn your camera on and give my dad a quick wave, just so you know that we are thinking of you, Dad. And I know he's with a really lovely nurse called Jiha, who's looking after him at the moment. If you have a moment tonight or tomorrow, please say a little prayer for him. Or do something extra in his merit to accelerate his good health. It was remiss of me on Sunday not to mention two special features about my mother. For the last few years of her life, Grandma Becky came to live with us. Anyone who knew my mother will appreciate the unbelievable amount of care and devotion she showered on my grandma to make sure she was safe, happy, and secure in the autumn of her life. I've always been in awe of my mother's efforts. Finally, my mother really was everything my father wished for in a wife. My dad worshipped everything about my mum and, in her unique way, smothered my dad with love, support, guidance, and more love. They were so happy together, and I so hope for my dad that his happy memories will give him the strength, resilience, and forbearance to build good health, so he can continue to see his beautiful grandchildren in England, Israel, and the US grow, flourish, and be a source of pride to the family and Am Yisrael. The overriding theme in these two examples of my mother's actions is love. The world would be such a better place with a little more love. And one of our great commentators once said, all you need is love. Love is all you need. A brief explanation about how tonight will work. The Rav of my local community, Rabbi Yoni Birnbaum, has kindly agreed to say a few words. He'll then be followed actually by my brother, a late entry, and then by my son, Tomer, who will speak on behalf of the grandchildren, mainly because the rest of them said, no, you do it. And finally, two people who my parents absolutely adored. My dad's close friend, Ralph, who he told me he met at catering college. That was money well spent. And my wonderful father-in-law, Tony Plasko. Once Tony has finished speaking, if you would like to share a thought or a memory, please raise your Zoom hand and the host will unmute you. And if you don't get a chance to speak this evening, feel free to contact me or my brother at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Elliot, for those words of introduction. So as Elliot said, my name is Rabbi Birnbaum. What I'd like to do is really share some reflections, some thoughts, perhaps on behalf of everyone, although I'm very pleased that people will have a chance to say their own words to Elliot, to Jamie, to the family, to John, to everyone else. You know, when we say the words at a Shiva, we say Hamokim Yinachem Eschem, which we translate as may the Almighty comfort you. But of course, the fact that we use that phrase Hamokim, which literally means the place, is an acknowledgement of the void that's felt at the passing of a loved one. And we acknowledge with those words that actually only Hashem can truly bring comfort. Only Hashem can bring that comfort in the sense of he is the omnipresent. He is the one who fills every place, every void. Yet at the same time, we know that we have a responsibility to do our best to emulate the ways of Hashem. We say, just as Hashem is merciful, so too we are. We try to be as well. And that's why our responsibility, in whatever way we can, is to be there for the family, to be with them in their pain and sorrow in whatever way we can. And that even though now we do that in a very unusual way, I know Elliot is not a fan of the Zoom medium, and especially in this context, but as always, we do whatever we can and we use the tools that we have. But if we think about what it means, the essence, the concept of nechama, to bring comfort, for many of us, the words that stand out when we think of the words as they're used in Tanakh are the words Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. Yeshayahu, that famous vision of comfort, to bring comfort to the people, that double phrase, Nachamu, Nachamu. And the double phrase itself, the Malbim tells us, is because the people who bring comfort often don't know exactly how, where, what comfort they can possibly bring. The Jewish people don't know when the Geula, when the redemption will come. Nachamu, Nachamu, it might be at a certain time, the expected time, it might be at another time, we don't know. And yet we try and bring comfort. But how do we bring that comfort? You notice that the word there is in the plural. We bring the comfort, above all, when we come together collectively. The nechama that we can bring is multiplied exponentially when we come together as we do this evening, when we're there as a group in the best way possible. And I think that idea of nechama in that sense, of comfort in that sense, seems so fitting for this evening as we reflect on Judy's life as a Zichron Livracha. At the Levaya, I noticed that Rabbi Levine of Belmont Shul reflected on two particular aspects of her personality. One aspect was the sense of closeness to her family, and particularly to John, who I know is with us this evening on this call. He said that John is for Judy and Judy is for John. They were together all the time, that closeness, that feeling of them being together. And he also said that she was always there for the Kehillah, for the community wherever possible, part of the community's cares team, both in Kenton and later in Belmont, always ready to make phone calls to help in whatever way she could. She was a person who made connections, who thrived on those connections, those bonds with others. She was someone who loved others and cared for them and was sensitive to their needs, however and wherever possible. Elliot, during your words, there was one small sentence which really hit me because it was also a reflection of care and concern for others. You thanked the doctors and the manner in which the care, the dedication they had for your mother and they continue to have for your father, may have a complete refuah shalema. And you said in, I would say, your very understated way, you said if we can do anything to help the doctors by keeping to the rules, that's probably a good thing. And it just brought home to me how everything about the situation we're in is about comfort, is about concern for others. It's about compassion. That's what it is. The more we do so, the more we show how much we care. It's as simple as that. The more we show how much v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha means to us, how much we care about other people all around us in society. And the truth is that idea of connection, of concern, of bringing others involved is also at the heart of the Kaddish itself. The idea of the nechama that comes from being with others, and especially going out towards others. Because as the Ovel rejoins society. It's the Kaddish, which is the Ovel's constant refrain, multiple times a day. And as we know, the Kaddish is not a tefillah, it's not a prayer for the niftar as such. What really the Kaddish is, says Rav Munk in his Olam HaTefillah, World of Prayer, is that the Kaddish is a call. It's a cry from the sun to the Kehillah to come together to be Mekadeshim Shomayim. That's what it is. That's really the essence of the Kaddish. To come together to sanctify Hashem's name, to proclaim together Yehei Shmei Rabbo. And by doing so, what the son does, what the child does, is the child demonstrates continuity. That's why we place, as we know, a stone. We place a stone on the grave because the stone is the letters Av, Ben, Nechet, the continuation, the continuity, the parent, the child, the grandchild. That's the tribute to the life of the one who has passed away. That is a tribute to your mother, to Judy. That is the tribute. The idea of bringing people together in her honor, in her memory, for the best of reasons. As people come together to say those words, Nachamu, Nachamu, during the Shiva itself, to give the words of comfort, to continue that and to continue her legacy through the family is the greatest possible tribute one can give. As we turn now through the month of Shvat, the thoughts of growth, of new growth, of spring, of life, of trees are on our minds. And we recall that incredible Gemara in Tanis, which uses the phrase Kiavu Miftari Mehadodi, when the two great Rabbanon, two of the great Amoraim, Rabbi Yitzchak and Rav Nachman, Kiavu Miftari Mehadodi, when they would leave each other, when they would take leave of each other, one of them would say, "How can I take leave of you?" He said. He says, "I'll give you a mashal. A person who's going in the desert, he's very, very hungry, tired, and thirsty, and he finds a tree, and the tree's fruit is sweet, but and it has beautiful shade. And there's a channel of water flowing underneath it. And he eats from the fruit, and he drinks from the water, and he sits in the shade of the tree. And when he wants to go, he says, Ilon, Ilon, b'moav orechacha. How can I bless you? You're such a perfect tree. You have the fruit, you have the shade, you have everything you need. You have the water. What can I give you? The only bracha I can give you is, may all the saplings that are planted from you be the same as you. May they carry on your legacy. I know how much your mother was so proud, as you said, of her family, the children, her two sons, of you and Jamie, and also both your respective children. She had so much love and pride in them. And our bracha, our words of nechama tonight to you are, may those natios always be like her, always proclaim her legacy, always continue her legacy, many, many, many years into the future. Our thoughts, Elliot, with you tonight, together with your brother Jamie, your father John, and all the family. May you all know no further sorrow. Yehi zichra baruch. May her memory be a blessing. Hamokim yinachem eschem b'soch she'ar avei Tzion Yerushalayim. May the Almighty comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Rabbi Birnbaum, for all those words. Obviously, our main concern this evening and for the near future is obviously getting Dad back on his feet and well again. I'm sure he understands how much love and support is surrounding him at the moment. And I'm equally sure that Mum is somewhere up there, possibly with Grandma Becky, making sure that he's taking his pills and is ready for his next chiropodist's appointment. Through all the sadness of the last crazy week, it's given me an opportunity to realize just how lucky I am. Firstly, to have a brother like Elliot and for everything he went through over the last couple of weeks. And me being so far away and obviously unable to help in any way. And obviously always supported by Emma and my amazing niece and nephews. Mum and Dad always taught us the importance of family and friends. This is clearly illustrated this evening by the amount of friends and family who have joined tonight's call and who have always been so close to them for so many decades. When Mum was very ill a long time ago, over 35 years ago, I've still never forgotten the invites that we'd received from family and from Mum and Dad's friends, who always made sure that we were fed and well looked after. I still remember the Thursday evenings taking the bus from school to Valley Drive to be fed by Auntie Roberta and so many of their other friends. And it's heartwarming to see nearly 40 years later that these people are joining us on the call tonight. I'm also very lucky for all the help and support I've had this week, especially from my daughter Noah, who Mum loved so much. Mum always preferred to talk to her on the phone rather than me, and I never understood why. There's no doubt that Mum would be so happy to know of all the love and support I've had this week from Noah and from Karen and all my friends, both here in Israel, in the UK, and in the other corners of the world. The last time I was able to speak to Mum, I asked her how she was feeling. In Mum's own way, she immediately answered, "Bloody awful." I think those two words sum up how we've all been feeling recently with the current state of things throughout the world. So I just really wanted to say thank you to everyone for joining, for your support and your love. And in particular, thank you for everyone who looked after Mum in hospital and who are continuing to look after Dad while he's still there. And to wish him a speedy recovery and refuah shalema, and to hope that he gets out of hospital soon. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Judith Elaine and Johnny Weider were very close friends of mine and Gillian, our friendship spanning nearly 60 years. We were two very different couples, but never had a crossword. Judy was unique, a character, outspoken, funny and fun, gregarious, determined, but always kind and caring. She had a heart of gold. We loved her. Every day we remember special and precious times shared. How can you mention a lifetime of memories in a few sentences when we had so many? Outings, boat trips, holidays, car journeys, eating out, sightseeing, and Yom Tovim, to mention just a few. And every Friday we spoke, and Judy always said how pleased she was as her grandchildren had called to wish her and John Shabbat Shalom. We will miss her terribly. It's just not going to be the same.
Hi, everyone. I'm pleased that whatever I say is only going to be echoing what's already been said, just repeating what's already been said. But I think that hopefully gives a true reflection, a real example of quite how true that everything that's been said is about my grandmother. So my grandma passed away in the evening of Friday, the 8th of January, or the 24th of Tevet. That Shabbat, I learned the 49th double page of Masechet Pesachim, which is the section of the Talmud that deals with things related to Pesach, in keeping with the Daf Yomi cycle. Towards the end of the first side, the Gemara quotes the rabbis who say, a person should always sell everything that he has in order to marry the daughter of a Talmid Chacham, because if he dies or goes into exile, he will be sure that his children will be Torah scholars. One of the messages here, I believe, is that it is worth investing everything to ensure that the person you marry is the perfect partner in building a home that imparts to your children and to your children's children values and lessons that will survive you even after your soul leaves this world. That is exactly what my grandpa was blessed to have found in my grandma. She was a person who was always incredibly upbeat, expressed unparalleled amounts of love for her nearest and dearest, and who was very principled, and from whose life experiences I very much benefited. The following are some of the things that my siblings and Noah and I learned from my grandma. These are all lessons that will ensure that her memory lives on forever. The love and care that she had for my grandpa was incredibly impressive and heartwarming. I think every single relationship can learn something from the way that they interacted with each other. The last few weeks and months I know were very difficult for my grandma, staying at home often by herself, worrying about my grandpa in hospital. When I spoke with my grandma, she was only ever concerned that my grandpa gets better, and when he came home, she would carefully tend to his every need. I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but my grandma was heavily involved with Jewish care. She was a regular volunteer who would go in to talk to cheer up the elderly people who lived in Jewish care. Grandma told me how much she enjoyed going, how much of an important part of her life it was, and how much her presence meant to the elderly people. Her work was so impressive that 2 years ago, she was honored by Jewish Care at an annual dinner for her service and for her dedication. When coronavirus hit, she had to stop going and she missed it dearly. Grandma was so proud of her children and grandchildren. There are few things that would give her more pleasure than receiving a call from one of us. She always wanted to treat us and spoil us, so much so that when she was struggling in hospital, the last thing she said to me was, "I'm going to take you out when you come back home." Grandma believed so much in all of us, and I think I have lost my number one fan. She always reminded me and my siblings how clever or athletic, even how handsome we all are. True or not, it was nice to hear because she really believed it. I hope we will all continue to make her proud. Grandma was an incredibly tough individual, and it was so impressive to see the way that she dealt with challenging times. Through difficult times, she only ever wanted to remind me and others that everything would be fine. She was unbelievably grateful for the support my parents, especially my dad, have shown her over the last few weeks and months. This, in part, because I never witnessed my grandma expecting anything from anyone else. Grandma had an excellent sense of humor. As children, my brothers and I always had a great time watching football in my grandparents' home. One of the highlights being listening to my grandma berate the players every time they fell to the floor. We are proud that she was a closet Tottenham fan. My mum made her some chicken soup last week while she was unwell, and she jokingly commented, "It's absolutely tasteless," knowing full well that this time it probably wasn't my mum's fault. Before I close, I noticed that my grandma shares a yard site with Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, or the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad Hasidism. The Alter Rebbe lived in a time of global change and unrest. Despite this, he was able to build a movement, today approximately 100,000 strong. The movement, Chabad, are known, and I have experienced this firsthand, for their kindness, their outreach, and their efforts to view every person as a brother or a sister in the most positive light. Although the circumstances were very different, we too are going through a time of global change and unrest. But the Alter Rebbe's works and teachings have long withstood the test of time. Of the lessons we can learn from my grandma that can be applied to our current predicament, they include that we must continue to be strong, to fight, to remain positive, and to realize that with Hashem's help, we will put every bad situation behind us. Every year, tens of thousands of Jews across the world celebrate Yat Kislev, the day that the Rebbe was freed from prison. Every year, the Rebbe's life is celebrated. Such was the positive impact that he had on so many Jews. We will remember Grandma because she too had difficult times throughout her life, and yet has left her mark, which we will carry with us forever. Like the Alter Rebbe, we will celebrate her life every year. I hope that we will continue to make her proud. Yes.
Good evening. We meet here this evening to talk about Judy, Zichrona Livracha, the Judy we remember. Judy was our Machatenista, a Yiddish word that describes a very special relationship that Jewish parents have with their children's mother-in-law. There is no word in English to describe this very special bond. So it was with absolute shock that we heard of the untimely passing of our dear Judy, as we had only spoken together a few days before to inquire about her health and that of John. She was more concerned about John's condition than her own. John, Stephanie and I would like to wish you a refuah shalema and pray that you will be restored to full health as soon as possible. We first became acquainted with Julie and John when our respective children, Emma Jane and Elliot, became more than good friends. This started a long friendship between us. It became immediately apparent that they were a truly devoted couple who enjoyed each other's company, even though John watched rather a lot of football on TV. Judy was a very positive person with a caring nature. This was regularly demonstrated by the help she offered to those in need of assistance. We were touched by the care she gave to her own elderly mother, Becky, who lived with them in Edgware in her later years. From a personal point of view, I will be forever grateful for the kindness Judy displayed towards my mother-in-law, Pearl, Zichrona Livracha, especially as we lived so far away. Judy and John were always on hand to drive Pearl to Finchley on Sundays to see their family. Judy was immensely proud of Elliot and Jamie and absolutely adored her grandchildren, Tomer, Adi, Nicole, Dan, and Noah. She always looked forward to visiting Jamie and Noah in Israel and made time during their visit for the four of us to get together. We found it difficult to reciprocate their hospitality, as they were usually the first to offer to host us when we went out to eat. Outside of family life, Judy was involved as a volunteer for Jewish Care. Others here this evening, and Tamer has already spoken about her on this. I'm sure we'll elaborate on a long involvement with this very special organisation. Stephanie and I missed Judy immensely, her quick wit and her thoughtfulness towards us. This horrible disease has taken away a person who did not deserve her untimely departure from this world. In these troubling times, with all the restrictions, we appreciate how much more difficult it must have been for the family on this very sad occasion. Stephanie and I wish Chaim Aruchim to John, Elliot, and Jamie and offer our sincere condolences to all the family. May the memory of Yehudis Bat Moshe be for a blessing.
If anybody, so it doesn't become a free-for-all, if you would like to say something, just do your, you look at the bottom, you can put your hand up, where I think where it says, is it reactions? You can put your hand up and then we'll unmute you if you've got a memory, a thought. Let's keep it at that if you like. So in a moment, I'm going to hand over to my mum's dearest friend, Roma. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Roma knew my mum even before she was born. So Roma, the floor is yours. She's still muted.
Finding it very difficult, but I was looking through some photographs yesterday afternoon to find some, and I found this one of Mum and this one of Mum. I have some others, but she was such a dear friend to me, I can't tell you. Not only was Judy my friend, my parents were like a brother and sister to Uncle March and Auntie Becky. To me, they were my aunt and uncle. Not only that, Elliot and Jamie, I want you to know that I also was taken as a little girl to see Mrs. Bernstein. Mrs. Bernstein was your great grandmother. She used to be a letter writer in the East End of London. She was a lady who wore a shaitel, a very orthodox lady, and I can see that life has gone the full circle. And believe me, Mrs. Bernstein, your great-great-grandmother and great-great-grandmother to your children, is looking down on you. I just hope that I just miss Judy, I'm sorry. I just hope she's looking down and smiling. We spent so many good times together. We had such fun. Judy, you're the sister I never had, and I hope I was a little bit of a sister to you. John, Jeffrey and I send you lots of love, and we wish you well, and we hope you'll soon be home. Be proud of your wonderful children and your grandchildren. And I'm so sorry I can't be with you, but Elliot and Jamie, it was Mrs. Bernstein, it was Auntie Becky and Uncle March, it was Judy and John, and now it's Jamie and Elliot. And I really feel I've been blessed by your family to know you all. And may Judy say good prayers for all of us, especially for John, that he should be well. They were like, I don't know, Jack and Jill, always together. And Judy had the most wonderful sense of humour, and she would tell me off now for getting upset. So I send you love, as does Jeffrey. Be well, all of you.
Hello. I would just like to say that after, well, I suppose, over 50 years of knowing Judy as a sister-in-law, that there's probably so many things to talk about. But the one thing that sticks in my memory was just over a year ago on the 12th actually, at my granddaughter's Simchat Bat, where Judy made a beeline to cuddle her before it started, and she was always so happy to see all our children. Whenever they came here to speak to them in Washington, in Australia, wherever they were. But we also found out that they shared a birthday, our new granddaughter and Judy, on the 3rd of January. So they managed to share 2 birthdays, I'm pleased to say. But it would just be known that every year on the 3rd of January in future, that our granddaughter, Yael, will be reminded about her great aunt that she only met once. I think that's, well, like I said, there's probably too many memories to remember over all these years. Miss them at Seder and so on. Yep. So let somebody else have a word. So,
Good evening, everybody. I am Judy's cousin. My father and Judy's father were brothers. And as such, our two families used to meet up very often. The brothers were very close. So as a young child, I played with Judy and her sister regularly. But unfortunately, over the years, we drifted apart. And actually, we hadn't met or spoken for decades until my late dear wife passed away. And then out of the blue, I got a call from Judy saying, come round for dinner. And this was such a nice thing for Judy that over the last few years, we met regularly. And I'm very sad, and I will miss Judy a lot. She was a very outspoken, forthright person. And I hope John makes a full and good and swift recovery. But she was part of my life and my childhood. And she was a good person, a good Jewish mother, very, very proud of her grandchildren. Whenever I went round to her flat, I would always get a rundown on the latest achievements of her grandchildren. She never failed, immensely proud of them, and her children as well, of course. So, Judy, I'm going to miss you.
Host would like me to unmute. Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm John's brother, Julian. Thank you, Ian, for those words. We are very moved by all that's been said, and we've got the fondest memories of Judy. She was, as you've heard, a wonderful daughter, but she was also a wonderful daughter to our daughter-in-law, to our mother. She was kind and considerate, often there looking after our mother, particularly when she was unwell in her later years. And we've got the happiest memories. My earliest memory of Judy, I suppose, is coming back from summer camp to attend John and Judy's wedding, however many years ago that was. And we've obviously had a close relationship all through the years. Perhaps the thing I'm most grateful to her for is allowing us to host Elliot and Jamie for Yom Tovim. And we've got lovely memories of them spending Sidorim with us and seeing them through school and seeing how well they've done. So just bits of sweetness, really.
I'll miss her a lot.
Yeah, indeed.
Judy was quite a strong person and could be mistaken for being quite harsh, but actually was very kind, and as everybody said, and very warm-minded and always liked to help others. And she was particularly proud of Elliot and Jamie, and often talked about the grandchildren, honestly, as if they were the only one in the world. And she used to say such wonderful thing about everybody, really. And as everybody said, adored John and looked after him so very well. And in the last week, when Julian would call her every day to find out how John was, and then discovered she wasn't well, then she used to say exactly as you say, Jamie. She used to ask, how are you, Judy? And she'd say, bloody awful. And I think that's really the way we remember her answering. But she was kindness and good-hearted.
Heart of gold, really.
And she'll be missed. She'll be missed.
I'm not sure it's necessarily appropriate for me to thank you, but I just want everyone who, just your presence, every message that people have sent, It really has been a comfort, and so many things I actually didn't know about my mother that I've just found out this evening. So I'm sure, please God, after this week, I'd love to know a bit more. I just haven't seen some of those photographs, so it's been a real comfort. I can feel my soul has been uplifted just by having so many of you here. There's people literally America, Australia, Israel, Spain. So thank you for taking the time. And if I can make one request for you, my dad is he's in the Royal Free Hospital. The ward is 9 West. If you just want to, I can see one or two of you getting a pen. So Royal Free Hospital, 9 West. If you got a photograph, just send him a note. I think he would really appreciate that. And please God, we can meet in person in happier times very soon. Everyone be safe, look after yourselves. Thank you. Good night.
Good night, Elliot and Jamie. Thank you for giving us all the opportunity to hear these wonderful words about Judy. She will be very sadly missed.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, your sister.
And we wish everybody a good evening.
Thank you
Yeah.
for sending something I wasn't able to respond to as well.
Elliot and Jamie, I'd like to say, המקום ינחם אתכם. בתוך שערי לציון וירושלים. And may you know no more sorrow.
Thank you.
John, if you're still listening, I hope you make a speedy recovery, and we see you up and about very soon.
Amen.
I did see.
Our love to all of you. We feel exactly what you're feeling. She was our dearest, loveliest friend. Love you all. Take care. Bye.
And John, we wish you well.
We'll speak soon, John. We really will.
For Shiva.
Yeah.
Speak soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Good night to
Bye.
everybody.
Night. Night. Elliot, I will send you the photographs when I've dug them all out. Okay, dear? I told you she was a pretty baby.
Hello.